Okay, so this is a talk that I give most sessions, and I have to apologize because I haven't prepared this one as well as I normally would. Just run out of time to get slides ready. Basically, just looking at some of the more interesting occultation opportunities coming up, particularly in the next, really is only just the next couple of months. And definitely not 22 and 23, so not 23, 24. I'll get this to advance again. Okay, yeah, just a reminder that people using Occult Watcher, you've got some campaigns in there. The big challenge, of course, these days is if you crank up a session of Occult Watcher and download occultations, you will get a stupidly large number of them, depending on your settings. And so one of the challenges we have in this era is knowing which are the more important ones, which ones have a greater science yield, and not just necessarily the ones that are most likely to be positive. I got to admit, personally, I'm sort of getting to a stage where there's some occultations that are so certain that it's not really sport anymore, going out and collecting them, and you're looking for something that's a little bit more unusual or science-worthy in your observing campaign. These campaigns are a good flag for interesting events. Michael's done a nice job on TTOA's email list, highlighting some of the occultations with potential ones where there are some suspicion of a second object. Gunlod in particular sort of stands out as one that's got a very dubious and non-scientifically rigorous result in the past that suggested something. So it's great to see there's actually quite a few people are going out and having an attempt at those particular events, even when it's not, the primary path is not necessarily very close to where they are. We're probably getting close to the certainty now with our predictions that if you were to get something and you were comfortably away from the main path, it's becoming scientifically defensible to suggest that you're looking at a satellite object. So this is one of the particular collaborations, chasing a range of particularly the near-Earth objects, the small ones. So Dave before had that result for 3200 Phaethon. That's the parent object for the Geminids meteor stream. Quite an interesting object. And now we've got quite extraordinary occultation results to show the shape and orientation of it. So just looking at some interesting events coming up. Now, why did I put this one in? This is out of have I opened the wrong? I've opened the wrong show here. Excuse me. That's last year's PowerPoint. I've got them this year's. Okay. Thankfully, the first few slides are the same. So, Lucky Star, the program out of Paris Observatory, continues to generate predictions both for trans-Neptunian objects, but they're also focusing on Trojans, given that from a science perspective, many of the Trojans are thought to be objects from further out in the solar system that have been captured into a Trojan orbit. While there was a very vigorous online campaign a little while back around the relative merits of predictions, Lucky Star is probably the best predictions for objects beyond Jupiter, but not necessarily for Trojans themselves. So here's one coming up tomorrow. Actually, it's probably more Monday morning for Cebriones, one of the Trojans. Using white star, to many of the events that we contemplate from Lucky Star. If anyone happens to be around Adelaide or Northern New South Wales. September 6th, should get a few people in this room with a nice bright 10.8 magnitude star for the ACT through to southern Sydney area. Hopefully the weather will be cooperative. It's a nice long event, 20 seconds, so, and a decent magnitude drop. That's an unusual combination. You've got a bright asteroid like a simile to find match it up with a bright star, a bright enough star to produce a spectacular occultation. And one for the Melbourne area, or probably Melbourne right on the edge. 8th magnitude star, reasonably long duration event, great magnitude drop. Should be an easy one for small apertures. I don't know if anyone else in Australia has messed around with the sort of mighty mini concepts of using binocular scale. I personally have gone mobile with old SLR camera lenses to be able to chase events down to this sort of brightness. You don't need to lug around big telescopes. And just when you thought occultations were getting too easy, so here's one. This is for a trans-Neptunian object on the night of September the 22nd. So the green line is the blue line is obviously the predicted path. The red dotted lines are the 1 sigma boundaries. They're huge. So basically, this is one where there's no precision at all in the prediction. Now, for some people, that might be a bit of a turn off. For me, that's an invitation. This is genuinely fossicking, looking for the off chance of catching something. It's not a bright star; it's 14th magnitude. But to be the first to catch one of these sorts of objects, which then allows subsequent predictions for this particular object to be much more refined, allows, in this case, 2000 PC30 to be available as a regular occultation target going forward. Someone's got to make that first catch. Chances are the other techniques haven't worked in defining the orbit well. They're waiting for us to get lucky. On that same night, though, I'll probably be concentrating on something else, and I probably should hand over to John Broughton to talk on this one. But Patroclus and Menoetius, the binary Trojan object, is tracking across Queensland. In fact, my home observatory is inside the path for this thing. 11th magnitude star, which is very comfortable. Over here we've got from the Lucy group their predictions. I got to admit, reading these predictions hurt my head, because basically it's 2 occultation paths slightly offset from each other, tracking over much the same terrain. So there's a fair bit of country in there around central Queensland which is going to see 2 events, one after the other, at some probability level. So John's done a great job on Slack of coordinating a couple of us up in the Sunshine State. I'll be back up there by then, to build a fence across this path to see how many of us can get 1 occultation, 2 occultations, or maybe no occultations, as we nail down this binary object pair. John, is there anything you wanted to add on that one?
Well, there's 4 of us all together. I'll be doing 5 telescopes towards the southern part of the 2 paths to about the middle. And then we've got Renato Langasek and Jonathan Bradshaw, and yourself is doing two stations. And we might have to move inland if it's cloudy, but I won't be able to go very far towards Emerald area, about as far as I can go, because I've got to get back by Sunday night. Yeah, so yeah, we're taking 4 reflectors and a refractor, and yeah, it's a good event because it's about 1.8 magnitudes brighter than the one we observed last year in I was near west of Mount Isa last year. So this one's a lot easier, a lot closer for me. So I waited for about 2 weeks last time. Yeah, that's about it.
Very good. Thanks. Yeah, it's going to be a big night. Got to get home and reorganize my gear. Certainly the home station will be fine. It's how I work with the remote one. And it's probably a good opportunity to highlight that for many of these special campaigns, there is coordinated notes on Slack. If I'm barely aware of Slack, but it's a good forum for sharing between pro and amateur community on these campaign objects.
Yeah, there's nine stations altogether, and I'd expect we'd get 6 chords off over each component of the system.
Yep. No, looking forward to it. Another event I've got here, this is next year in January, with again targeting ones with bright stars. So this is MV of 8.7, so a nice comfortable star to watch for the north end of the South Island people. Don't think we've got too many observers in that part of New South Wales, but also fairly short. This is, as you can see in the occult prediction in the top left-hand corner there, expect fades more than 0.02 of a second. This is something that sort of I'm noticing probably more of as I get better at setting up the camera, etc., to resolve the light curves. Is don't expect them to be sharp disappearances and reappearances. They can be gradual, and in some cases they can be very gradual. We'll have to put in a request to Dave to modify IOTA so that it works with more than can cope with more than a 10 frame transition, because we've had a few come through in recent time which are probably 12, 13 or 14 frame transitions. Just nitpicking. Okay, away from planetary, so in the lunar occultation space, the next couple of years is actually getting a little bit more interesting. There's another season of occultations of the Pleiades commenced at the moment. I haven't caught up with any of them yet, but these predictions are for Alcyone or Eta Tauri, the brightest star in the center of the Pleiades. Obviously, the cluster is bigger than that, so a bigger zone around these spaces is being subject to the occultations. The one there on September 5th is largely a daylight event, so that's not likely to be very observable. But the one on October 30 is dark for most of Australia and probably twilight for New Zealand. I think from memory though, that's close to a full moon, so probably a little frustrating. Another couple of events, daylight again for New Zealand, and then one that'll be in a dark sky in January for Western Australia. Also coming up, it's later in 2024 before any events come to our part of the world, but the next series of occultations of Antares is close to kicking off again. Those of us who got a look at it last time, your grazing occultations of Antares are a pretty extraordinary event. Everything's gradual. make some light curves that don't look like occultations at all. And that's all I had for this quick talk. Any questions on any of that? Don't worry about the hands, because obviously the hand thing's not working for me. Just shout. Okay, Murray, you want to pause the recording and restart again?